right here at Hope TV, where you look and you live. And yes, it's a Thursday. We told you once we are back, we'll be having our guests in studio talking about connecting with your child. They are coming for the April holidays. And so how do you connect with your daughter, with your son as well? That is the conversation we are having today. And so be part of the conversation, Hope TV Kenya, across our social media platforms. Drop us a text, a WhatsApp message as well. We are on 0708 222 323. And of course, we will also be looking forward to those questions. I know you have so many questions in as far as today's conversation is concerned. And also you can share with us your experience. How are you able to connect with your child? Have you hacked it in as far as how to connect with your child is concerned? And so any parent out there, please, this is your show. And so make sure you are also inviting others to tune in and get to learn a thing or two in as far as today's conversation of connecting with your child is concerned, even as they are preparing to come for their holidays. I'm not alone in studio. I will be having Paps Wanyugi to help us with this conversation. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you.
So good to be here.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
And it's a pleasure. Thank you for that.
I
keep saying, especially weekdays, weekday morning.
Yes.
When you have a guest, don't take it for granted. They have sacrificed a lot to be here. So thank you so very much.
Yeah.
And looking forward to an amazing conversation today. A brief introduction of yourself.
My name is Paps Wanyugi. And so probably Wanyugi has been here.
Wanyugi is, yeah.
Quite a number of times on money.
Yeah.
So he's on money, and for me, I am on kids and women.
Okay.
Yeah, and my name is Paps Wanyugi. I'm a life coach, and my areas of coaching is emotional wellness and, of course, healing and purpose, clarity and alignment, and also inner confidence. And I work with preteens, teens, and women.
Okay.
Yeah, just because that is a constellation. So I would ideally say I'm a coach for African families. Yeah, because my context is also Africa. I really love African children and African families as well. Yeah, and besides that, I'm married to James. This is our 13th year.
Wow.
And we have 4 kiddos. So we have 2 that are adopted.
Yes.
We have been having them for the past 8 years.
Wow.
So right now they're 24 and 20. And then our biological children are 11 and 7. So we have 1 girl, the third born.
Yeah.
And then all the others, me and Crystal, live in the boys' dorm.
Yeah. I know, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but you're very secure.
Very secure dorm.
Security is tight.
Yeah, and amazing housemates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is about our family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad to be here today.
Karibu sana. It's a pleasure to have you here, Paps. And I saw confidence.
Reconfidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also an author, so I've done 2 books.
Yeah.
One is Reconfidence, Get Your Ball Back, which is mostly for our women's programs.
Yeah.
And then I also have another book called Leading Generations, which is about mentoring 21st century preteens and teens in Africa. Yeah, so that is the scope of my work.
Yeah.
Of course, also just my inspirations, my moments, my learnings, and of course, some of the wisdom that God has helped me to gather over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you again for accepting the invitation. We are having a very important conversation this morning. It's all about parenting. And it's not just parenting, actually. How do you connect with your child? That is what we are looking at this morning. And I remember we were having even this off-air, and we were saying when the new education program was rolled out, it gave the children 2 months, especially the long holidays, November, December. I remember the first one, parents were like, tutafanya nini na hawa watoto for 2 months.
Yeah.
You know,
whole 2 months.
Yeah, a whole 2 months. We were used to 3 weeks, at most a month.
Yes.
And then they go back. But then again, now we find ourselves with them for such a long periods. And we were sort of like clueless. We didn't know what to do with them. But before we even get there, when we talk about
needed to do. And so for us to also design, even as parents, in terms of this is a season of growth, but am I also realizing that one day I need to come to a time that I'm more available, because there are many variables when it comes to connecting to our children, because they are ever changing. You know, they are in different seasons. So for example, what Crystal needed when she was a preschooler, or probably when she was always home, is different, you know, than what she needed when she went to preschool, and what she needs right now as a preteen. And then when she's a teenager, she'll need something different. And then when she's a young adult, she'll need something different. And so I can't keep on staying on a constant and hoping for the best. I also need to keep on inquiring on the Lord in terms of what is it for this season. For example, like myself, this year, I'm intentionally slowing down. To be there more for the kids, to be there more for family, and because I'm just sensing like there's something that God is doing. You know? So probably this is my year to also go deeper in terms of who I am, my relationship with God, bits of personal development as well. Because I'm also coming from a year of high speed, you know, for the past probably 2-3 years, you know, where I had webinars back to back, coaching sessions at night, you know, away, sometimes even for long times. And so how do I balance and realize that I need to come back? And all these things, you need to schedule them as well. You need to schedule. Even right now that the holiday is coming, have you thought how you want to be present during the holiday? Because it will take a lot of intentionality to even create moments in terms of I probably need to slow down a bit in April. How do I build in those rhythms so that I'm intentional in how I show up?
And you will be helping us even on that, even as we continue with this conversation. But there's something that you have said that I don't think many of us have seen it from that angle, maybe a few, that the days are long, but the years are very short. But we don't see it from that point, especially when we are given this responsibility of parenting. How do we cultivate that consciousness? Because it's with that realization now that we are now able, as you're saying, to slow down and chat this way forward, knowing that indeed it's for a very short period.
So probably in my work, I deal a lot with moms. So I'll probably say those are my go-to places. And one of the books that I normally recommend is a book written by Nancy DeLay that talks about lies women believe and the truth that sets them free. So she speaks about different lies, for example, about circumstances, about sin, about my looks, about parenting, about marriage, like just different areas of her life. One of the things I love is about her priorities. And I just love this thought that she has in terms of I always think I don't have enough time. But then Nancy says that is a lie, that we believe we never have time. I don't have time for motherhood. I don't have time for parenting. I don't have time for anything more. But then she says that if I learn to inquire of the Lord every morning, the way Jesus will do, the Bible says he used to go on for solitudes in the morning, and then he would inquire of the Father. Then what would happen, I would actually know what is God's priority for me only for that day. And of course, if my children are also in the center of my prayer, sometimes I will even be able to discern. Like sometimes I look at my children and I'm like, this one is not fine, this one is struggling, this one is withdrawn, you know, because I am always speculative and I'm always in this place of checking out and even checking in terms of, are you okay? I've realized you're a bit quiet this week. I've realized you've been a bit reactive this week. What's happening? And you see, the moment you're able to slow down and to inquire of the Lord, then you start seeing things from his perspective. Instead of always living in my worries and my anxieties, which will always drive me away into the mother mode. Because Jesus told mother, you have so many things, but one thing is needful. And that is what you need to focus. That is what Mary has chosen. It will never be taken away from her. So it's actually possible that in my mode of being totally zoned in on God, there are actually things that I'll be able to discern, and I will be able to also discern what is God's priority for me. Even on those long days, because long days means that all these things that are waiting for me, all the schedules, the to-do lists, the targets at work and everything, I'm still able to discern. Probably it will even be that time of the Holy Spirit nudging me during the day to just call and check on my child. And that will be it. You know, because I need to first of all discern. First of all, I usually say, like, when you're thinking about connecting with your child and being intentional, you need to think about the age they are in, because that determines what they need. You also need to think about their personality in terms of their energies. You also need to think about the situations in their lives. Maybe one child is going through a difficult time in school. Another one is going through probably the transition from teenagehood to, you know, from preteen to teen. What season are they in? And I believe that if I'm designing just the way Nancy DeLay says, then in terms of my priorities, I will actually be able to order things. And I usually think about the picture of juggling balls and to just ask myself, which ball do I even need to put down in this season? I've actually seen parents who are intentional enough to say, I'll probably stop working for this year and just be able to zone in a bit in terms of take care of my family a bit more. And of course, that is a conversation of, we will be strained a bit financially. But right now, we are, first of all, bringing down our budgets to handle something that can't wait. Because remember, the years are short. So sometimes I may actually feel like our children are struggling. Maybe sometimes they're even struggling in their health. And I'm just feeling like the caregiving and everything is not working. And I'm like, what if I trust God that this year I can be more here to just make sure, and even a child who is probably going through rebellion, going through a difficult season, because I usually say sometimes children feel you give me attention when I act up. And so the fact that you ignore me when I'm good, nice, then I need to act up more, and then you will give me attention more. Sometimes those can also be things to ask myself, can I slow down first and handle this? Because this is temporary. This one is leaving my house. You know, I will have time for everything else. I will have time for work. I will have time for my career and ambitions, and I will have time for everything else. But this one can't wait. And to be able to just discern that the years are short, they are few. And one day I don't want to feel like I retired and then now I'm still raising my children because I never raised them in the right time. I missed many seasons in the past when they really needed to connect with me because I was not available. And of course, they were not a priority in my life in terms of other things were number 1, 2, 3. My children were number 10. And with time, they got comfortable being number 10. And then I wonder why they never come home, why they never call me, why they don't care about me, why we are drifting more and more apart, especially when I understand that when my children probably go to campus, I usually say, honestly, that is usually a place of a lot of negotiation and humility, to just come to a place of realizing they don't need me as much. They have their own life. They can figure it out. You know, with time, they will not even need my provision. And so I'm becoming more helpless and diminishing as they grow. And so to remember the times I have authority, actually usually say the first 10 years of a child's life, that is when you have most control over them. And that is when you can probably do a lot of grounding and nurturing and also connecting. But then even if probably your child is a teenager or a young adult, it's not too late to connect. It's just that the modes are going to be a bit different.
We will get into that as well, because I think there's something hanging there that we can explore. Listening to you, and I like the angles that you take. I hear you, and many a times as parents, we look at the rebellious children, we look at the children and what they ought to be doing. But listening to you, I hear that I need to be very sober as a parent so that I can be able to get to understand my child. And I need to be very intentional, which at times we are not. We were saying this, some of the things that we do, especially as couples, we are very intentional with our spouses. We are very intentional even with how we, show love and everything to our spouses, but we forget our children. How important is it to, first of all, sort yourself and get rid of, or should I say baggage, any pain that you may be having, so that you have clarity as you are raising your children?
I think probably bringing in the word conscious parenting in terms of I need to parent from consciousness, to just ask myself, is this my wholeness or is this my wounds that are talking? Is this my childhood trauma that is showing up? Is this my mother talking through me to my children? And my father? Is this my mother ignoring my children through me? Zoning out. Probably our mothers ignored us like live, in terms of naosha tu vyombo na kuignore. For us, we probably do the phone, do the laptop, just zone out in ways that look normal, but of course they are not. And one of the things about conscious parenting is to remind myself that I am parenting from the quality of who I am as a person. Nothing less, nothing more. So if I'm not a quality person in terms of understanding myself and understanding my inner conflicts and understanding my trauma, understanding my pain, then I keep on showing up in dysfunctional ways to my children and I'm hurting them. And so conscious parenting means that the more I work on myself, the more I show up as a healthy and also nurturing and also impactful parent. And the more my children will be healthier parents themselves in future. And so conscious parenting is also a place of introspection, of have I dealt with everything? Have I dealt with the tensions within myself? Have I dealt with my pain? Have I dealt with my dysfunctions of even how I was brought up?
Yeah.
In a way, I'm mirroring them through my children. For example, people who are raised by very controlling parents, they could easily become very permissive parents when they're not conscious.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like you're trying to negate the parenting style you are brought up on. Some of us who are probably raised by parents who let us do everything, then we micromanage our children. So when you look at the different parenting styles, sometimes they mirror our dysfunctions when you're not conscious.
Yeah.
And so you realize that I allow my children to do everything because I was never allowed to do anything. I allowed my children to do whatever they want because I was always controlled and prevented from doing whatever I want. I was micromanaged a lot when I was a child, and so I let my children rule themselves. But the problem is that when you think about parenting, I actually come from a school of thought where I know a lot about gentle parenting, but I just think like gentle parenting is centered around the child, respect them, honor them, be tuned into their feelings. But then I'm thinking sometimes that also causes me to raise children who are self-obsessed. I need to actually think about godly parenting. I'm teaching my children to honor God.
Yeah.
I'm teaching them to follow God. I'm teaching them to honor me so that they can live a long life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Ephesians chapter 6 is clear about that. Honor your father and mother that it may go well with you. So it means if they can't honor me and James, it will not go well with them.
Yeah.
Number two, they will not live long life on earth. And so to remind myself that the goal is, first of all, to be conscious on where I'm coming from and to also be conscious on my inputs to my children. To ask myself, is this fear talking? Is this approval addiction? In terms of I want to please everyone, that is why I raise my children the way I do.
Yeah.
Am I raising them for God, for myself, for others? Am I raising them for approval, to fit in? Even the schools I'm taking them to, what is influencing my decision?
Yeah.
Because conscious parenting is being able to ask yourself why, you answer yourself honestly,
Yeah.
and you actually use that feedback to make better decisions.
Yeah.
To just know that I'm not doing this out of my own insecurities, out of fear. I'm actually doing this to honor God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you would help us, perhaps, in terms of what you have said earlier, in terms of connecting with children of different age groups, because as you said, 1 to 10 years, then preteen, then teens and all. Of course, there are different ways of connecting with them. Let's first of all focus with the first 10 years, because those are crucial years. How can we as parents, connect with this child?
So I'll bring in a psychological theory that I really love. I just remember it from my psychology class in 2007 by a guy called Eric Erickson. And he says that when a child is 0 to 2, the main thing you're building there is trust. To just make them feel the world is safe. Just that.
Yeah.
The world is safe, people are safe. And that is why I usually think, I know we are really sucked into technology, and probably that will be conversation for another day. But the first 2 years, the child should connect more with human beings, actual people.
Yeah.
Because you're shaping their reality of what the world is. So, for example, can you imagine if a child is always watching horror cartoons, horror things, monsters and everything?
Yeah.
That is still shaping their reality of trust. So 0 to 2, the main goal is trust. And then from there, when they are 2 to 4, we are building initiative in terms of let them do things for themselves. Feed yourself, take yourself to the toilet. And of course, there will be many accidents and mistakes, but you're trying to build initiative.
That.
Yeah,
it's
initiative.
Part of the process, yeah.
Yeah, do things for yourself. Wear your shoes combo. And actually, I remember there's a time we would allow our children to walk around with combo shoes. I don't know, it doesn't hurt children when they're wearing their shoes.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so walk around with it. You are so proud that you put your shoes on. And then after that, after the initiative, they are now working towards autonomy. Autonomy is I am my own person.
Yeah.
And so that is why sometimes power struggles come in terms of they are pushing back authority and everything because they are building autonomy. And then, of course, on and on, different stages, they're actually building different things. By the time they are 6 to 12, that is when they are building competence. Help your child know what they are good at. That is when they should do sports. For me, I usually think it's too stressful. Anajaribu kutoa makamasi, diaper training, and bado wako kwa other activities in school. It's actually stressful for a child.
Yeah.
I just think from when a child is 6, that is when their knack for competitiveness is building up.
Yeah.
So 6 to 12, that is when they should join all the clubs. For us, we actually take our children on rotation in different clubs in school. Do chess this time, taekwondo, try sample everything to just see what you like. Do skating.
Yeah.
Just try different things first. Don't settle for anything.
Yeah.
And it's because in that time they are experimenting to just figure out what they are good at.
Yeah.
And that is when a child builds competence. And then after that, when they are teenagers, that is the place for identity. So it shows that in these different stages, you need to understand what are the different tasks and how you should show up.
Yeah.
So for example, in trust, I just need to be very reassuring, soothing voice when my child is below 2. You know, I'm just talking to them, I'm laughing with them, I'm looking at them in their eyes, I'm meeting their needs in terms of, oh, ndio nyonyo, ndio maziwa, ndio, like give them whatever they need, you know, or whatever they probably want, not want, let's just say what they need. And then of course on the initiative, allow them, give them permission to do more things.
Yeah.
Because when children are not given initiative, they then become shameful. They start feeling shame. Sometimes I usually say even the shame we feel as adults, the guilt, all these emotions were actually built in our formative years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even that part of feeling like I'm not good at anything, like personally I really struggled with that. It was actually stemmed from childhood.
Yeah.
And then of course also the identity confusion, identity crisis, am I he, she, they, them. Sometimes that also kicks in during the teenagehood because probably it was not resolved well. And so I usually say by the time a child is 12, they need to answer 5 questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Do I really matter?
Yeah.
And even in our children's program, because I run coaching programs for children called Facing Giants, we help children answer those questions.
Yeah.
Because it shapes their core identity in terms of beyond my mother, beyond my father, who am I?
Yeah.
And then now from there, they are ready for teenagehood. And then after teenagehood, they are ready for intimacy. So for me, even when children come to our program, like I remember when we had our transitions retreat from, you know, taking them through the changes, teenagehood from preteens. It was actually a preteens retreat.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think anyone should be dating before they're 21. I mean, your cognitive development, your emotional development, like your body is so wild. You are changing rapidly. You don't even know what you want. You're not even sure what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Your emotions are also unstable. And so I think from 21, that is when now intimacy comes in. They start dating. They start like now serious connections and relationships. And then of course that prepares them for now stability later in terms of now the adulthood here. So to just understand that I am taking my children through different tasks. The same way, my children are in different stages. And so, for example, there's a time we had a toddler, a preschooler, preteen, and a teen when we adopted the amazing boys in our family. Right now, we have a young adult, a teen who is also exiting. We have a preteen, and we have a, well, I say, it's not a middle schooler. Right now, Yaniv is in grade 2. And so when you think about them, they have different needs right now. So the conversation I will have with Yaniv is different from how I will talk to Crystal, even the context. That is why you can't keep on huddling your children and talking to them together. You also need to have alone times because they're in different stages. They have different needs. When I talk to Jimmy, he's already left home. You know, we are 25% empty nesters already. So when I talk to Jimmy, he doesn't really need us. He's paying his bills. He's living away from home. So our conversation is usually like just check in, like, you know, do you need any help? When can we hang out? And of course, when we hang out, we're also not over-advising him. We listen more. So it's just understanding that they're in different stages, they have different needs, and connecting with them is actually individually connecting with where they are.
And that is very important, Paps, because many a times we had our children, you know.
The group.
Exactly.
Grouping.
Yeah, the grouping. So,
and that is how we grew up, so probably we don't know anything
so it's you know, how we were brought up. And so you listening to you again, the need and the importance of having this time with the first child or this child, but not really herding them together and sort of like parenting them together. You need to distinguish the seasons, the times, the pains that they are going through, so that also they can also be able to share with you. You are creating sort of an environment that is conducive to have a conversation, as opposed to when you had us together, I'll be afraid even to share in case I'm going through.
Very true. And you also remember when children are in these different stages, number one, the age groups, they have different needs. For example, a teenager would need a conversation of just more reassurance, affirmation, you know, check-in. And of course, a younger one probably needs more control, more discipline. Let me not use the word control, but they need more management, more discipline. Even in terms of your physical energy, it's a bit more intensive physically. But connecting with a teenager, you need more emotional energy. So also just understanding like what are the needs. And of course, probably connecting with a young adult, you need more financial energy because their needs are also increasing. They are in campus, they need more pocket money. So pocket money you are giving them in high school was probably a K, maybe they need 5K or they even need 10K every month. So every season is changing. And then to also understand, besides age, I'm also connecting with my child based on their love language. Yeah.
Watoto pia wako na love language.
Actually, love language is a bit of a childhood wiring. And you will actually know that from the way your child usually desires you. I usually say, most of the times, we usually try to love our children according to my own language. In terms of, mi napenda kupewa gifts, so I keep on buying gifts for everyone, hoping one day they'll reciprocate. You know, quality time, I keep on forcing them, hey, kuja tukai hapa, let's do. But in terms of even asking your child, there's actually when you go to 5languages.com, there's an option of doing it for your child, where you can actually answer questions depending on how you perceive them, especially if they're below 5 or let's say below 8. But then if your child is above 8, I usually encourage parents, give your child the link, let them do, and then see how they want to be loved. So for example, even during this holiday, there's one child who just needs quality time. So maybe that is one child to go on errands on the day you are busy. Enda tu nae, mpeleke hizo maraundi muenda. They will actually enjoy just being with you. And then a child who loves gifts, kila sana kwanga like, umeniletea nini? Umeleta nini? Umekuja na nini? What have you brought? Just make sure there's something for them. Or at least there's something for everyone, but then for them, you'll really bless their hearts. A child for acts of service, they want you to do things for them. You know, can you make for me tea? Can you make my bed for me? Okay, sometimes it sounds a bit, you know, reckless, but then you are like, sometimes I usually tune in and ask myself, is this me enabling responsibility, or is this me trying to connect with them because they want me to love them by doing something for them? Can you polish my shoes? Can you? I mean, they know that they can do it. They even sometimes, even my daughter, as old as she, sometimes can be like, can you shower me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, and it's because that is the way I will connect with her, and that is something she needs. And then, of course, to also understand a child who, for words of affirmation, you know, calling them from work and just reassuring them you love them, I care for you. That is enough. You know, so you need to understand each of my child, what is their love language, and how can I show up for them in a way that I deeply connect with them. Physical touch, make sure you give her a hug or him a hug when you come home, because they want to feel that physical kind of a connection. And so, first of all, you need to understand your child's age, your child's love language. Number 3, understand your child's personality. Are they introverted, extroverted? Because their energies, if you're able to match up their energy, to just remember, the introvert doesn't want you overwhelming them with details. Maybe just come and, you know, 2 minutes chat. That's imetosha. You know, don't force it on me. Don't keep on asking me questions that are intrusive. And so it's just that part of understanding. The extrovert, they want to update you on what they did every minute of the day. You need to have 1 hour to sit down and listen to them. So to just understand, that is still how I connect with them. And then, of course, the last thing, connect with your child depending on the situation they are in and the season they are in. You may actually realize this one is struggling in school, this one was bullied, this one is going through teenagehood transition, this one is probably going through an emotional meltdown that I don't understand. Just ask yourself, what is my child going through? And how can I show up in a more helpful way? Even to check in with them on that situation. You're like, whether did you overcome that incident? You know, did you overcome, you know, what was said to you by that student in school? Did you overcome probably losing some of the things you lost in school? Did you overcome this bad feeling because you had a bad grade? You know, so to just understand that I need to connect with my child depending on what they are going through as well. And I see Mr. Wanyugi is very much tuned in. These are really amazing. I believe most of the gaps in our society are parenting problems. Douglas Angogo, I love the story of Paps. She's a great inspiration. Pass my regards to her. Thank you very much. Very timely conversation as well. Judith Kitui says, this lady is young but full of wisdom. God bless you, Paps. Thank you so very much. Let's continue engaging on our social media platforms, Hope TV Kenya, and also on WhatsApp. We are in as well, 0708 222 323. Let's talk about, you know, as we say, seasons of life and all. The grief. I want us to mention grief and loss in families, because it's part and parcel of us. How do we get our children into the same without really, what is it called? Shocking them? Ensuring that it's within, but we are not totally blocking them. So when it comes to grief and loss, first of all, to understand grief and loss in families is Death is one of it, and probably it's a very big part.
Yeah.
But even losses in terms of other intangible losses, I usually think sometimes even relocating, it's a huge loss to children in terms of they've lost a whole network.
Oh, yeah.
For example, we relocate homes, we relocate church, we relocate towns. Like there's a huge loss of even places they loved going and places where they felt they connected. And to understand also going back to personality, children who are introverted are more hard hit by transitions, especially like those physical transitions. And then the other thing to also understand is when we are going through grief and loss, many times, especially in the African context, let me just say globally, really, sometimes we don't think children grieve.
No.
So for example, think about the times that maybe a child has lost a parent. Everybody will come and comfort the mom or the dad, the spouse who's been left. But how many people bring their children to connect to the children who've lost their dad? How many people even talk to the child and just find out how does it feel that dad is not here anymore or what's going on? And so many children will actually grow up with cumulative grief in terms of many losses that were not validated, they were not discussed. And of course, all these are places of difficulty and probably even, lack of resilience later in life. And so when it comes to probably connecting with children who are in grief, first of all, journeying through it together, in terms of, first of all, checking in, and of course, sometimes even getting professional support. I just think like even a parent who has gone through loss, sometimes they are so sucked in their pain, especially if the other parent was probably the super parent, in terms of they're the ones who are tuned into the children's needs. And so what will happen, it's possible that, that gap just keeps on going. And one of the things I usually say is just ask them, how are you feeling? What's going on? And last year, we also went through a very difficult family situation and just checking in with the kids continuously in terms of how are you feeling? Are you even blaming me for it? Like, just check in with them. And you see, that helps them to first of all, feel validated and for them to also be conscious that they're actually going through a difficult situation. And of course, when it comes to grief and loss, let me talk about 21st century, even things like separation and divorce. Those are griefs and losses. And maybe there's even a family that this holiday, it's the first time that they'll be together with only one parent. Because probably I've had so many amazing friends and even clients who are going through separation and divorce. And you're just like, this is the first holiday that they will actually be without mom or dad, or they'll be between two homes. And of course, that is very difficult for those children. And I usually say, if you don't know anything, or you don't have anything to do with your child when they're going through those difficult seasons, just get them professional support. Just be like, hands up. I'm at the end of my wits, but I just feel like my child is really suffering or struggling, and I need to get them support. And I really admire so many children I've journeyed with in terms of their parents, bringing them for coaching sessions, because they're going through transitions and they're like, I don't even know what they're feeling. I don't know what they're going through. If you don't know, just get someone else who can poke in. And of course, that person will also give you wisdom and guidance on how to journey with that child and what they're going through. But never ignore that changes and transitions are equally difficult for children. Even in terms of they've lost, for example, even children losing opportunities. Like I remember last year journeying with a child who lost a position in school in terms of they were leading a community, they were in this role that was amazing, and then they were demoted without any reason. He was suicidal. He even started cutting himself. You don't understand that maybe you'll be like, mi nilikutuma shule usome. Sijui za nini ulienda kujiekelea.
We would tell them.
But to understand that meant a lot to them. It was part of something they had built. They had put in so much time that they feel, if I had studied, I would be having A's. But then I have B's because part of my time I dedicated to volunteer in this project in school. And so to understand that losses are intrinsic, but at the same time learn to validate every loss your child is going through, even to check in with them. Just listen to their conversations. That is why in connecting, the more you listen to your child, even, for example, I love at least twice or thrice a week, I will pick my children from the bus. In the mornings, most of the times, we will drop them, me or James. But picking them from the bus, and I'm like, how was your day? What was your highlight? What was your low light? Sometimes just those small talks would actually bring in a lot of insight on what's going on in their life. In terms of, today the teacher, and then I'm like, okay, so what happened? Tell me more about it. And you see, it's because you're poking. I remember one day she was like, there's a girl in our school who told me I'm thin like a toothpick. That was our doctor when she was, and by then she was thin. When she was it 7 or 8? And to understand that, by then that was a conversation to have. And you see, for us, we've learned to be not those parents who jump in. We're like, tomorrow I'm driving to school.
Yes.
I need to fix that. And we're like, so what can you do about it? Yeah, what do you believe about yourself? You know, to have those conversations and to catch those moments, because at that time she's actually going through a crisis of sorts. But then when you think about the bigger things of grief and loss, some children, even when these things are happening at home, maybe they have not talked to anyone about it in school. Maybe their teachers don't know, but they can see they are acting up in school. So sometimes it will be like the teacher saying, nowadays he's withdrawn, she's reactive, he's explosive, like what's happening? But instead of allowing my child to go and, you know, probably vent in the wrong places, maybe I should get them the right support when they're going through grief and loss. And of course, transitions as well.
You are capturing so many things that also I have observed in the society. Like now, we want to shield our children, say grief and loss. Anything happens in school, I want to be the one to go. Of course, there are extreme cases that you cannot overlook. How important is it to ensure that even as we are connecting with the children, you are also now instilling the right values and how also they need to handle such cases in case they recur?
For me, one of the things I've learned is, first of all, to point my children to God. In terms of, we are going through this, I also don't know what to do. I also don't know. I'm also broken. I'm also confused. I'm also, like, I don't have answers. Like, sometimes it's important to be vulnerable enough to show our children that we are not superhumans. We also go through moments where we need God to journey with us. And so teaching your children to lean more on God instead of you. Because God has not called us to be super parents. He's not called us to be perfect. The only thing that we've been called to be is faithful. And that is why even standing before Jesus one day, we will hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. Faithful. Not perfect, not diligent, not hardworking, not super servant. Good and faithful servant. God has called us to faithfulness. And faithfulness is just that part of being able to discern the season we are in, for us to even get help. Nowadays, I really encourage even families to go for family therapy. The moment you feel like we are actually part of our children's brokenness. In terms of, I usually say you can't be the ailment and the medication. Sometimes you need someone else to medicate because you are part of the ailment. And so to just understand that there's some brokenness that my children will go through and I'm part of it. And I need to invite external help to come and journey with them. And of course, I also need to get help for myself. You remember the conscious parenting? To just understand that, by this sometimes I am the pain. In terms of, unless I work on myself, then my children will always keep on hurting because I'm dripping with the wrong effect on them. And of course, to also come to a place of understanding that values is also a corporate responsibility. Like in our families, we've sat down and even decide what defines us. What do we stand for? What are non-negotiables in this house? And I was just sharing, for example, even when it comes to teenagehood transitions, in our family, we just have a rule of we hold space for you, but we don't enable you. For example, even in mood swings, because you're going through teenagehood transitions, you're going through probably those difficult times where, like, it's your responsibility to communicate what you need. If you need space, tell us you need space. But we can't keep on walking on eggshells around you because you are going through a difficult season. And so to be able to also set that as a value in terms of, in this house, we honor God, even with our emotions. We honor God with the difficult situations we are going through. We want to invite God. And so we want to help you invite God in that difficult situation you're going through. We want to hold space for you. We want to understand you. We want to empathize with you. But at the same time, we still demand Ephesians 6 verse 1, that you honor your father and mother, that it may go well with you, may live long life on earth. And so that part of values. And of course, I'm just thinking about Christ-centered values in terms of, are we walking in the truth of what God says? Are we honoring God and his truth, even about our family and how we are doing things? And of course, that is also calling our children to challenge us. I remember so many times that our daughter will be like, but mommy, you are drinking wine and you're preaching? You're preaching water and you're drinking wine, because she's recognizing some double standards in something you said and how you're doing. And so for us to not have this absolute place where God can't minister to us and reach out to us and rebuke us even through our children. Because it's not every time that we are honoring God in the way we are doing family. And our children sometimes are the mirror to that. And for us to invite correction, I mean, I've really been rebuked even last week. It was like, I don't like the tone of voice you used on me. I don't like the fact that you blamed me about it, like, especially after things have calmed down, we always have that open communication of, give me feedback, I will accept feedback, I love feedback. Keep that posture so that your children are also healing I usually say we are a different generations. Our parents offended us. They never apologized. They were never right. They were always number one in school.
Yes.
You know, that
Yes.
profile of an African parent. But we are a generation that is going to still make mistakes, some of the mistakes our parents make.
Yeah.
But we will correct by first of all allowing feedback, apologizing, you know, even coming back and saying, by the way, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have talked to you like that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. And of course also to repent. Sometimes even in prayer to just say, Lord, forgive me for the way I shouted at my children today and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, we correct. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you so very much for the questions that you are sending in. We appreciate you for those questions. There is a question here, amazing insights. How can we trigger these conversations in a co-parenting scenario?
In a co-parenting scenario. So one of the things, it's actually, I usually say these conversations should have been had when probably we were parenting together and during the transitions to co-parenting.
All right.
Because if there was a lot of dishonor in that transition, I remember a seminar that I was speaking in this past weekend, and one parent was asking, like, how do I tell my children that we're actually separating with the dad? And one of the things that just came on my mind is how I communicate that is very critical on our success later. Because number one, I don't want it to sound like I'm blaming him and placing the entire blame on, he really sucks, that is why we are.
Yeah.
You know, he's a horrible person. It's just that part of saying, we are going through a difficult season, I'm getting help. I'm not blaming you for this, and you know, it's not your fault that you're going through this. But at the same time, we will be here for you. We will try our best. And I usually think, like, even if you're doing the co-parenting, sometimes it's good to get therapy on how it should work. You know, don't minimize the fact that therapy can help in terms of, we have decided we don't want to be together, but we want things to work for our kids. And so how can we be both functional parents in terms of how we show up and creating experiences for our children? And of course, it is practical and helpful because the times that we are together, or probably even the times that the children are here or the children are in this home or the other home, the rules are clear in terms of how we are engaging. We have the outcomes we want for our children, much as we don't have an outcome for me and probably him, but there's the outcome we want in terms of we want to raise our children well. And so it takes still the same part of having a meeting and conversations. And one of the things I usually say, for you to create quality moments and functional families, we need to actually have a lot of meetings. We really encourage family meetings. Get feedback and opinions from your children. Get their input too. Plan with them. Allow them to also take charge of some things in terms of how things will work. And so even in the co-parenting situation, still sit down. I mean, you are civil probably in terms of we want the same outcome. We want the best for our children, much as marriage space didn't work for us. But as we sit down, we're actually thinking about how do we also involve our children to make things work, so that we don't have children who are sabotaging both of us, because when they go here, they break rules, and then when they come here, they also break some more rules. And so it's important for us to just think about how will this situation work. I may not have an exhaustive answer because I don't know the specific situation in this co-parenting situation, but I'll just encourage you, if it's possible, please get therapy, get support. Just say, like, these are the places where we are struggling. We were struggling maybe in this even when you were married. And then right now we want to make it work because now we are in different situations. And of course, get support also individually, because sometimes I am the one who is feeling the frustration of co-parenting. I need to get support and help to know how to untangle myself and to have emotional intelligence to make the situation work, especially the person who is with the children. They actually need more help.
All right. I see Pauline Minor. Go Paps, it's good to hear you again after you spoke in Buruburu on Saturday. Thank you. Talking about grief in children, how do we help a child who lost a loved one, not recently, but they are suffering mentally now? Of course, that one we will term it as complicated grief. Because grief, I usually say normal grief takes 2 years. So if it's less than 2 years ago, then that child is still grieving and it's fine. Normal grief is 2 years. But then the moment probably there was no proper grief or support, and then now later it's complicated in terms of I lost and I've not been able to adjust, then it means that child still needs help. And I will encourage probably that child needs to see a therapist. You know, just take them for therapy and let them get support in terms of what they have lost and how this probably transition has become complicated and difficult for them. My 9-year-old always cry when they get lower marks or positions after exams. I don't demand for her to maintain the number, and so it confuses me how to help her. how do I handle it this holiday if it happens when they close school?
Yeah, the pressure on grades.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have not even had time to share my story because of time, but I was a very, below average kind of a student.
Yeah.
Hey, me, I don't think I was ever above number 10, apart from one time, and of course there is a crime scene
Yeah.
that I'll explain another day. But just thinking about myself as a child who was below average, number one, you need to first of all understand, why is it that the self-worth of my child seems to be pegged on the grades?
On the grades.
Is it a school pressure? Maybe I need to go to school and have a conversation with them. Yeah, personally, I'm actually a no pressure on grades kind of a mom.
Yeah.
At whatever level. I'm just thinking, like, I want you to do your best. And every time, probably even going for those academic clinics and antikana kusoma, encourage him to, I'm like, are you really doing your best?
Yeah.
And for me, honestly, if you really assure me you're doing your best, I'm like,
that's what.
We are good.
Yeah.
And so it's that part of you are reassuring at home, but you need to also probe into your child in terms of where is this invisible pressure coming from if it's not from you? Is it also the other parent? Is it competitive? Are they also comparing themselves with their siblings who are probably thriving?
Yeah.
So it's important for you to understand where is the pressure coming from so that your reassurance is also with bits of understanding. Yeah.
How would you advise a parent who has a hostile child, preteen, who constantly abuse and harass the big brother, who is a teen, and even inflict pain by biting or threatening with a knife?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is a bit serious.
Yeah.
But one of the things I usually say, I think we had mentioned this statement before.
Yeah.
Every child who is rebellious is seeking for attention. I think every parent needs to first of all probe it from that level.
Okay.
In terms of what are they looking for? What do they need? And then of course, number two, has something happened to them that I don't know? What if my child has gone through abuse or there's something, or even maybe their worldview, maybe the things they are watching and the exposure they are getting is actually triggering that. And so go to it with curiosity. And in psychology, we usually say there's the presenting issue in terms of this is what I'm seeing, and then there's underlying issue in terms of this is what is really happening. So until I get to what is really happening, I can't resolve what is on top level.
Yeah.
But of course, like let's say in my situation, especially for our biological children, Yaniv and Crystal, Yaniv knows that you honor Crystal. She's older than you.
Yeah.
Like there's some things we don't negotiate in terms of honor. In terms of you need to honor authority. And in terms of rankings, she's older than you, need to honor her.
Yeah.
Honor her in your tone of voice. Honor how you speak to her. And I usually say respect is taught, but honor is something that comes from the heart.
Oh, yeah.
You can teach your child to talk nicely to people, to greet them nicely, to be polite. That is respect. But honor should come from the heart. And so it means like, how can I teach, for example, for this mom, how can I teach my preteen daughter to honor people, to honor, and of course also to honor boundaries, because that is also a violation of boundary.
Yeah.
And so on this, actually on Saturday, we have a boundaries retreat, not next Saturday, that is on 5th.
Yeah.
A boundaries retreat where we teach children boundaries, even with family.
Wow.
How can you honor other people, other members of your family? And if a child doesn't learn honor, then the problem is that one day this sibling rivalry will be a sibling rivalry in the office scenario, where it's a colleague they are contending with, because everything is projected later. And so it's just that part of asking, does my daughter need help? Should I probably get her therapy or counseling to just probe what is happening if I feel like I'm out of depth to be able to reach out to her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm being told that we need to call it a day. We have tried as much
that was
as we
short.
can. Very short, I know, right?
Wow, it's 8:55. Where did time go?
Yeah. But I hope that we will have you another Thursday. Hopefully, should I say this on air next week? Hopefully, so that we continue with this conversation, because I feel we need to touch on so many things, technology, because that seems to be our way of, making our children happy, us as of this generation, of expectations and reality. How can we be able now to get this in terms of the reality on the ground? Quality time you have mentioned, and the issue to do with gift and the personalities of the different children. That I hope we can be able to tackle next week. But before then, any parting shot that you want to leave us with?
I think for me it's just that, but one of the scripture that has really been staying on me is, teach your child in the way they should go.
Yeah.
And even when they are old, they will not depart from it. It is in Proverbs. I can't remember the verse. I don't know whether it's 22:6. Yeah, but just that part of reminding myself, I am teaching my child in the way they should go, not the way I want them to go, not the way the world wants them to go, their school, the way they should go. And so my work is to increase the perception of my child in terms of which way should they go, to just empower them and strengthen them to be able to find out where they should go. Yeah. And then the Bible says after that, they will never depart from the way.
Yeah.
And of course, where they should go is also remembering that my children are going to eternity.
Yeah.
They need to remember one day they are going back to God. And so that is one of the ways, the highest ways that they should go. And then it doesn't matter what they will go through, the departing in terms of they will detour, they'll be distracted from the path, but they will never depart from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so help your child discover their purpose and have clarity on the things God is calling them to do. Invest in their giftings, because that is also the way they should go.
Yeah.
Invest in them knowing God for themselves, so that one day they write on their hands the name of God.
Yeah.
And then one day, even if they leave your house and everything, you'll be sure you've raised a child that is solid.
Amen.
And of course, those will take a lot of connecting moments to be able to know the way they should go. Yeah.
Awesome. How can we connect with you?
How can you connect with me? So Reconfidence with Paps, R-E-Confidence. Reconfidence with Paps is the name of my brand. So if you go on YouTube, you go on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and everywhere, you will definitely find me there. And of course, you'll also find my contacts there. Should I mention my contacts? Do people usually do that?
If you are safe,
okay.
If you feel it's okay.
So if you want to connect with me, I'll just give you my office line. My number is 0735 428 808, but that is for WhatsApp only. 0735 428 808. That is my number if you'd want to reach out, probably have a conversation on anything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paps. Really appreciate for the wisdom that you have shared with us, the knowledge that you have shared with us this morning. Asante sana, especially as we are looking forward to having them for a couple of weeks. This will be an opportune time for us to connect and reconnect with them as well. So thank you so much. Regards to your family. Our good friend James.
Yes. Hi, James. Karibu nianze kutuma salamu.
All right. Yeah, so thank you so very much as well.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to today's show. Make sure you are sharing this link with someone, a dad, a parent, a guardian, an auntie, an uncle. They need to hear this as well, so that they can become the people God has called them to become in the lives of those children. God willing, we will do this again, same time, same place next week, Relationship Resonance as well. Tomorrow being Friday, Beyond the Melody. So kindly join us tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, George Gishuru, and the entire team that has made today's production a success, we wish you a prosperous day ahead. Kwaheri for now.